Hey everyone, this is Erin Ashley Simon.
This is Brandon Killabh.
And welcome to another episode of Grassroots Podcast. Today we have a special guest.
Special.
New Def Jam signee. All the way from Texas.
Yeah.
Bobby Sessions.
Thank y'all for having me.
Yo, he even got the cool intro. Yeah. I can't even see it. Like, damn, man, must be nice, man.
So how you doing?
I'm doing excellent. How are y'all?
Good,
Pretty good.
Thank you for coming on the platform.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
So let's get right into it, Bobby.
Okay.
Who are you?
Bobby Sessions, legend from Dallas, Texas. I'm an artist that makes raw and uncut, unapologetically black art, and I'm a new signee of Def Jam Records.
Fire.
Yeah.
So upon us doing our due diligence and checking you out, wait, pause. I did find a number of records that I was really impressed by, and that was the first thing I got before getting actual documentation on you. I was like, oh wow, like he's speaking about things that matter. Yeah. Where most people don't. Why go that route versus, the normal, conventional microwave music?
Because I want to make sure that I'm talking about things that are bigger than myself. I don't want my career to come to an end and then we look back and say that all of my content was just me rapping about how good of a rapper that I am. And also, my cousin got killed by law enforcement, so I feel like I have a responsibility to shed light on these issues that people continue to sweep under the rug.
Oh, wow. So that hits home for you holistically.
Very deeply, yeah.
Man, when did that happen?
Summer of 2012.
Yeah, sorry to hear that. That's crazy.
So how was that process? I know you dedicated the song Like Me to him.
Yeah.
How was that process for you? Because it was emotional. I'm sure you were filled with anger. But how were you able to to concentrate and put all those emotions toward like a direct verse and lyrics that it makes it's concise, it has context and everything like that?
I have to prioritize my lifelong mission over my personal discomfort. Like, it's you have to go into a very dark space to create the music and for it to connect with people and resonate. It puts you in a very dark space, but the pain that I feel while creating is a very temporary one, and if I can help enlighten millions of people around the world, then I think that's a small price to pay. Yeah,
that makes sense. So, I mean, for you, like most artists, this is like therapeutic for you to be able to kind of vent and also, in the same token, kind of bestow wisdom on people that may not have, known about any of these issues that happen, which is kind of hard to, not notice these days. But,
right.
I mean, at least you have a mission, which is pretty dope.
Absolutely, and making a commitment to be raw with the message because we've become very desensitized. Like you can make the example earlier in the day, like you can see, somebody got shot on Twitter and you're like, oh, that's fucked up. Like, what's Cardi B doing? Like, you just move on from it so fast. Like, this is real. It's a real thing. And like I said, it's a small price to pay and it needs to be done. And instead of me complaining about the lack of other artists doing it, I took it upon myself to make sure that I'm doing my part.
Dope.
Now, you originally grew up in a low to lower income area, and then you moved to the suburbs.
Yes.
And I'm sure that whole experience, and of course, we're getting hit by New York gentrification.
Yeah.
That's all happening.
Yeah.
How have those kind of two experiences created like a duality when it came to your music? Like, what did you take from growing up in that lower income area, and then you're growing up in the suburb areas and adding into your songs?
That's a great question. So up until 18, I spent 12 years in that area called Pleasant Grove in Southeast Dallas, and then 6 years in the suburb. Both are their own bubbles. When I was in Pleasant Grove, that was an all-black neighborhood, and that was all that I knew. So when you go from there to an all-white neighborhood in the suburbs, it's traumatic because everybody has a different culture. Like, so the things that you fear are completely different. When I used to walk down the street in the suburbs, I would be way more terrified than when I was in the black neighborhood.
That's crazy.
Like, I used to have I watched like the movie Mississippi Burning, like right before I moved. So when we got to a new neighborhood, I was walking down the street and there was these two cars driving down the street, and both driven by white drivers. One of them waved at us and the next car flicked off me and my family, like in the neighborhood.
Wow.
That's crazy.
It's like this thing, and I used to always have this fear that like if something happened to me and everybody told, like no crime, like it would be no justice. It was like this thing. So yeah, it was traumatic at first, but ultimately, if I would have never moved to the suburbs, I would have never went to UNT, University of North Texas, and ultimately I would have never became a rapper. So I'm glad I did it.
Yeah. Now, even when I think about just you musically, when did you first kind of feel like, all right, this was for me?
Freshman year of college, November 16th, 2010.
Damn, he got the date. You got the time and everything.
Yeah, man. I was doing poetry a lot, and I played sports like my whole life. And they had this event in UNT called Poetic Justice. It would be like poets, rappers, singers, and that would be in this gazebo right in front of the student union, and they would, display their talent or whatever. And I did some poetry, got some good reaction, and they had a cipher at the end of it. And I saw the reaction that the people was getting in the cipher, and I felt like I was better than those guys. So I went home and wrote a rap, and I came back and recited it. And the rap was fairly trash, but the reaction I got from it, it was like a thing in my spirit, and I knew I knew that was gonna be
It was the move.
My thing, yeah.
Yeah. Now, just kind of going back to your friend being murdered, like
cousin.
Oh, cousin, sorry. Before that happened, do you think that your music would have had as much substance as it does now, considering that pretty much altered your way of thinking and everything?
Good question. Probably not, if I'm being honest. It hits way closer to home when it's your family. Like, I found out on Twitter that my cousin got killed. That was like on Twitter. Yeah, it's like, it was a combination between Twitter and my mom. So I was working at Walmart at the time.
Okay.
And I saw that there was a riot in South Dallas. It was like somebody had got shot. And but the name wasn't popping up. And I was just like, who is that? And a couple hours later, I got a call saying that my cousin got killed. And I was like, in South Dallas? And it's like, yeah. It was like, was there a riot? It was like, yeah. And I was like, what? Like, it was like this wild thing. So when it happens, and last time I saw him was Christmas 2011. So it's like, I remember growing up with this guy. So when it happens to somebody, just your whole perspective is different. And I'm sure that contributed to my passion and level of my seriousness when it comes to making music about these issues. Yeah.
So how did This Is America resonate with you? One of the things like with that music video is that a lot of times when all the chaos was in the back, it's like the focus was all on the dancing and just like very social media based content. So like for you, with your experience with your cousin, like how did that music video resonate with you?
I thought it's one of the greatest music videos of the past 10 years. And it was a trip to watch, and it's almost like if you watch it just looking at Childish Gambino, it's a completely separate video from watching it, not looking at him at all. I think he did a great job in showing at how desensitized we are. Like, somebody can get shot right here, but I'm doing the shoot dance right now, and so it's all good. I thought it was a brilliant piece of art, and I hope to see more content in the future from him that is touching on similar issues.
Do you ever fear that, we're having some artists alongside with you who are doing the unapologetically black music? Is there like this fear or this sense of concern about that kind of music becoming a trend in a sense?
That's a great question. I feel in a way it already has become a trend. It's become like the cool thing to do now because more people are standing up. And you can see this pretty much with anything socially. When one person comes out and do it, that person will get vilified. But if everybody's doing it now, it's the cool thing to do. But I think if it's ultimately helping people be more aware and do more research on their history, then I think directly and indirectly it's still a good thing.
Now, even when you start to create records, to kind of piggyback off what Erin said, I like the word fear. Like, now, process-wise, do you fear that because your music is so influential and has a real meaning to it that it may not reach as many people as it should, or maybe people you could even possibly be blackballed because you're bringing real-life issues to the forefront?
I think I have some great questions.
Thank you.
I think if I was in a label that wasn't Def Jam, I could see that potentially being a fear, but I'm in a place that put out Public Enemy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So Paul, the CEO, is encouraged me to speak my truth and to make music as raw as possible and to speak my mind and to be open and not to hold back any punches. And I think I'm in an environment that is allowing me to be myself and do my thing. So it's really not too much of a concern for me.
Yo, man, people at Def Jam are great. They all give the best answers, man. Between JD, you guys are amazing, I must say.
Shout out to JD. That's my man right there.
Yeah, shout out to JD. So let's get a little bit into your recording process. I'm always fascinated with it, me coming from a musical background and being a fan of it. What are some of your little, I guess, quirks that you kind of need to be creative? Like, I know people like we talked about Royce early on. He needs a candle to pop.
Okay.
Not just a candle, a crackling candle.
A crackling candle to pop in order for him to kind of get in his mode. What are some of the things you need in order to get into your groove?
I don't like a lot of light in the room.
Okay.
I never record standing up ever. Like ever. Like I will refuse to record standing up.
Wait, so you like bring a chair into the booth and you sit?
Every time. And if I'm not this much of a diva about that, I guess, but I do not like recording in booths.
That's becoming more and more common.
Yeah, like I record sitting down. I typically have my shoes off, like in an open space.
Oh, so you just like to be on some Zen shit and just chill.
Yeah, so instead of like normally you have the booth and it has all the foam to trap in the sound, we use one of them chaotic eyeballs. I guess this is a plug for y'all right now. And we use that on the mic, and I typically record with the producer or the engineer right there, shoes off.
Is this like a superstition, like a luck thing, a good luck thing?
I think it's a habit that's turned into a religion at this point.
Shit. I wonder what happens when you're standing up recording.
We will never know.
So, all right. So moving forward from there, I do want to get into your album. But before that, who are some of your musical inspirations? Because you just listening to your music, I hear a lot of people. I got the Childish Gambino. And from the creative side, lyrically. And then I hear that you're super, super lyrical when listening to your music. So who do you listen to?
My biggest musical influences, Jay-Z, Eminem, Tupac, Pharrell, Kanye West, top 5.
Okay.
As far as musical influence.
Musical influence.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, on top of that, it's also Black Music History Month. So what song from a Black artist do you think resonates the most with not only you, but potentially people around your age the most? And why?
People around my age?
Yes.
Probably All Right by Kendrick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good record.
Yeah,
That's
probably
definitely.
for my generation, yeah.
Why do you say so?
It was the song that's forever synonymous with the Black Lives Matter movement. No.
Do you feel like that song and just that project in general made more millennials and younger people start to pay attention to some of these problems that are happening?
Absolutely. One, I think it's one of the greatest albums made by any artist of any genre ever. And I feel like it was so unapologetically Black that it forces you as the listener to pick a side. On your other side of freedom or you're on the side of oppression. And I've seen a ripple effect after that body of work has been released.
Mm-hmm. Now, when you start to create, just I guess from your core, because you know how like every artist has their ascending moment where you go from underground to kind of popping and bubbling, and now you on.
Yeah.
The type of music that you make, has that ever made any of your, I guess, core friends or even just people in close proximity to you uncomfortable to where they're like, I don't know if I want to associate myself with you, even though this is how you feel. These are your truths.
It's made people close to me uncomfortable. Not uncomfortable where they don't want to associate with me, but uncomfortable like they fear for me just in general. Mm-hmm. Like I know with my music, I have to anticipate getting death threats at some point, mm-hmm. or even anticipate Black people getting so hyped that they go like slap their supervisor. Like the next day, like, I have to be anticipating all of these things. I think they fear for stuff like that, not associating with me, because whether they express it or not, a lot of them privately share the same opinions.
Yeah, well, the reason I say associate, because we talk a lot about beef on the podcast, and just obviously with Pusher and all this other stuff. And you know, everyone is a target. You know what I mean? So I often wonder, being a part of the entourage or friends, like, do they ever worry, like, maybe this is getting too deep for me? Maybe I need to take a step back.
I'll say if they haven't openly expressed it. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Did you have any conversations with any white friends that might have listened to your songs recently and just kind of like really breaking down, like, this is what it's about, this is what's going on now, and this is my truth, and just so it's like not an uncomfortable situation, obviously?
The white people in my circle, they all love the music because they know that it's not about them. It's about white supremacists. Like, you know, I think every powerful black movement has always had white people involved in it. Like, so it's really not even black against white more than it is freedom and oppression. Like, you have us and then you have the enemy. White people that are not racist are not offended by my music. They're uncomfortable, but black people are uncomfortable when they listen to it too. I was uncomfortable making the music. It's all uncomfortable because it's true.
Yeah.
That's what makes it uncomfortable, because you know it's true. But I think if you're on the side of freedom, it's really, you're not gonna have no issue with it. You know, I'm talking about white supremacists, not white people. Just in general.
There has to be some feeling of pressure that comes with it, because especially if you're talking about things that are serious, like you know, white supremacy, the things that happen with police brutality. It's like you want to make sure that the lyrics are right, that they're appropriate, and that everything is cohesive. So like, do you feel any sense of pressure, or is it something that just naturally happens once you're sitting down in your chair and, you know, recording?
Yeah, so I do a great deal of research before I say anything, just to make sure I can avoid issues later.
Yeah.
But I don't have a fear of being wrong. Like, I'm gonna say things now that I'll regret saying 20 years from now. I'm gonna not say things now that I wish I would have said 20 years later. And I'm not fearful of making a mistake. And I know with this kind of music, if I do have any holes in my message, it's so out there that the public will correct me, like, oh, you got this right, but you missed this, or this fact is incorrect. And I think that's good.
Was there a specific moment that you looked up that really resonated and really was like the foundation for your songs or even your project?
Nothing I looked up that was the foundation in particular, but that was something that I looked up that really struck a nerve. I mentioned it on the title track of the project, Revolution, where I say the first cops were the slave catchers. And like, I really dug into that. And it's like the first police officers in the South, that literally was their job. Yeah. It's not something that became their job. Their first job was to catch slaves, stop slave revolts, and protect the property of the rich. They wore the same star badge. It just said, like, slave catcher on it. And then they replaced it with police and added another star. Like, and that really struck a nerve. Like, you really, like, what are you policing exactly? Like, and when I read that, it makes, when you go on Fox or News or something like that, and they say, well, police brutality isn't a real thing, this is an isolated incident, that argument is obsolete. Like, these are not isolated incidents. This is a long history. And even, it's like, oh, they're good cops. Like, yeah, they're good cops, but it doesn't change the fact that it's a bad system and it has a bad origin.
I can definitely see you doing more, like, on a larger scale. And not to say you're not doing it on a larger scale now, but I mean, like, I could see you, like, leading something very powerful just based off of that one bar from that. Like, that was really powerful, you know what I'm saying? I really appreciate that. Tapping into such dark music at times, how do you decompress from it? Because I know you have to probably go into all different types of emotions, and you have to have these conversations with yourself. How do you then kind of escape that to go back into a normal reality? To
honestly,
kind of be you?
I watch Family Feud.
That's my show. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I watch that every single night.
Family Feud is my shit.
Oh, see.
That's what I do. I watch Family Feud. That's how I decompress. Because it's like, and I didn't know why, but I realized it's so dumb that it just, I don't know. It just gets my mind away from it. I watch Family Feud. I smoke a blunt and watch Family Feud. That's my shit.
I can't lie. I agree with him. There's sometimes I'm sitting there and it's like the easiest question. It's like, name a fruit that's red, and then they go and say cucumber. And I'm like, really?
Orange, Steve. Like that's like that's what I do. That's how I think.
I'm a Jeopardy guy. That's why I'm laughing. I watch Jeopardy. Like I'm
you
the
got
guy,
to like.
But I play along. Like I'm like, I'll take that for 10, Alex. Like I really get into that shit. So that's pretty funny.
That, and I watch hours and hours of stand-up comedy.
Ooh, who's your favorite stand-up comic? Give me your top 3 stand-up.
Actively of all time.
Oh, that's
it matters.
It matters. All right, I'll do. Let's do a little bit. Let's do 4. So give me 2 unactive and 2 active.
All right, all time. Chris Rock, George Carlin. Actively, Dave Chappelle, and Eddie Griffin.
I wouldn't have thought you would have thrown Eddie Griffin in there.
I thought I was about to say Eddie Murphy.
Yeah.
I rock with Eddie Murphy too.
Eddie Murphy, delirious, classic shit. I want to talk a little bit about your upbringing, your family. What was that like growing up for you? You know, I know you mentioned a lot about, you know, growing up in a black community and growing up. How are your parents? Do you have a good relationship with them? And, you know, do they support you? I know that may sound like a dumb question, but I know a lot of people that really don't get support or come from broken homes. So.
I had both of my parents. Education was very important in my household. They had very high standards for me. And, you know, they wanted me, like, you know, normal parents, they wanted me to go to school, get good grades, go to college, get a degree, and hopefully get a good job. And I took a left turn, deciding to drop out of college to be a rapper. It was like a shock for my whole family. Like, you're not a rapper. You know, but... you know, after I did it for a few years, they came out to a show, and when they saw me perform live, they believed in it completely. Yeah. And I wouldn't be here today if they wasn't supporting me and being very as encouraging as they've been to me.
Now, when you, what was that feeling like when you know, obviously everyone wants acceptance from their parents. You want to make your parents proud. To hear them say, "Oh no, you're not a rapper. Like, what the fuck are you doing?" Did that obviously drove you a little bit more to kind of prove them wrong, or just to show them like, "Hey, your son's talented. I'm kind of nice."
Yeah, like when it happened in the beginning, I was upset, but as I've gotten older, I get it. It's just like. I don't have children, but if I had a child and they went to college and then they dropped out on my money and said that, yeah, I'm going to be a rapper, and you've never seen or heard me express that as an aspiration before, I think I would have a lot of questions. You know, and it's like they didn't listen to rap like that, so I get it completely. But with the support that they've given me since 2015, like, it doesn't even matter. Yeah.
So the city itself, Dallas, I read that you thought it was important to establish yourself in Dallas, even though typically most people would tell anyone who was an aspiring rapper artist is to move to New York, move to LA. Right. Why was it important for you to stay local and to build within Dallas and not expand yet into these big markets?
One, Dallas doesn't have a history of artists coming up within the scene and then signing with a major label or having any kind of global, national, or even regional success. So I saw it as an opportunity. Studying the history, I saw it as an opportunity to create the history. I wanted to make sure that us and High Standards, the label, Dallas-based label that we have in Dallas, founded by J. Jones and Vince Chopper, we wanted to establish a blueprint that other artists in the city could follow suit.
So legacy is more important to you? Absolutely.
Like creating history and not letting artists come up with this like hopelessness that they have to move somewhere in order to get on. Dallas is a big city. It's one of the largest markets in the world. And we have all the resources necessary to be a successful market, hip-hop market in particular. We just have to do the work and not have not be entitled.
So why do you think that artists, especially who are coming up, feel that hopelessness? I mean, we've seen artists come out of Florida, we've seen artists come out of the Midwest, we've seen some artists come out of the South, now we've seen some come out of Philly. Like, why is there still that sense of hopelessness and like, oh, I have to go to New York or LA?
Because New York, it's drilled into your head that if you go to New York or LA, that you're gonna be successful, have a real shot in my dreams manifesting. And when you don't see a lot of examples of success, it's easier to believe doubt. It's easier to let your doubt take control of your life. And I think that was the case in Dallas. We didn't have all these wins. Like, for example, DOC is from Dallas. He's from West Dallas, but he didn't like come up in the Dallas music scene and popped off or nothing like that. So since there was no examples of it, it's easy for people to just write it off and say, oh, well, it's impossible. You know, but everything is impossible until somebody does it.
Yeah. Speaking of self-doubt, like any up-and-coming artist struggling, especially being, unsigned, I want 2 defining moments. First moment is, when did you first really think about giving up on rap? And then what was that moment that then followed it that made you say, no, this is for me?
Defining moment. My defining moment was when I put in my 2 weeks notice at my warehouse job. That was my defining moment, because at that moment I felt like I made it. When did I think about giving up? Every day. Yeah. Just thinking about it every day, because you're starving. It's like, well, maybe this isn't for me. But I researched pretty much every billionaire story, every millionaire story, every successful entertainer story that I could find. And once I saw that they all went through that, they always said, man, I thought about quitting. And I was like, well, I never would have thought that you thought about quitting. Like, yeah. And when they would tell their stories, they was expressing the same emotions that I was feeling every day. And I realized, like, the only difference between the people that made it and the people that didn't, both of them thought about quitting. One of them just kept going. And I wanted to make sure that I kept going. Yeah. And that was it.
All right. That was really dope. I want to talk now about album.
Okay.
Favorite records, any features, and what do you want people to kind of take away from this outside of what we already know? You obviously speak with a purpose and have a purpose, but I want to dig a little bit deeper than that. So let's get into that. What are some of your favorite records and why on this album? Okay, so the project is called Revolution, the Divided States of America. That's hard, too.
Thank you. That's hard. Thank you. And chapter 1. So Revolution is a series, and Divided States of America is chapter 1 in this series. It's my favorite record changes depending on the day. Right now it's Revolution, the title track is my favorite record off of it. I want people to... what's the best way to put it? With chapter 1, the goal and the mission is to identify what the problem is. Okay. So you're going to hear a lot of anger and rage, like you've heard on Like Me, and a lot of suppressed rage, because in society, black people are uncomfortable openly talking about their oppression, openly talking about their trauma. And it's basically taking all those conversations that happen in the barbershop and putting them on record. The barbershop is the place where you can be open, you can be honest. It's encouraged for you to be politically incorrect and just to speak the truth, right, wrong, or indifferent. And we just took all those conversations from the barbershops and put them on record.
Nice.
Is there like a specific, obviously you have like the chapters, but do you have any... other specific flow that it comes to it? Like if you listen it from like the end and go to the beginning, it has a different meaning versus, or if you listen to certain tracks back to back, it has another different meaning. Like, is there any like variation of that?
Have to listen and see. Listen and see.
I can already see the album's gonna be mad deep, and I'm gonna be in my feelings. I can already see it, which is not a bad.
Like
thing.
It has something, but I don't want to say it. I want to say it.
Yeah, save it. Now I want to know.
Yeah.
This is your marketing ploy to try to get me to buy
no
your album.
marketing.
I'm falling for it. Just so we're clear, I'm falling for it.
But it's really good, and you know it's just chapter 1.
So you're moving in phases. Then you have a whole role. Just listening to you probably have a whole 4 albums in your head, considering you're titling this chapter 1.
Like I know the name of the last album I'm gonna put out in my career already.
That's fire. Even though times change, the world could magically open up and buy into the revolution.
Yeah. Now, with that being said, I'm not going to fight some undeniable idea if it comes my way and make adjustments to the plan. But as of right now, I have my last album already planned out. And Revolution, this is a EP, this chapter 1. So I'll have music that come out that's separate from the Revolution series.
Okay.
So, for example, the 2 projects I put out before the Def Jam deal, LOA, which is acronym for Law of Attraction, and Grateful, those are part of my Manifest series. So I'll have more catalog to add under that tree or umbrella, and then I'll have albums that I'll put out as well.
Collaboration-wise, who do you have on there? Just give me one. I don't want to spoil it, I guess.
It's only 2 on the whole project. So we have Zaya, my label made at High Standards.
Okay.
She's on 2 records, and she also did some production as well, and Killabh Mike.
Ooh. That's such a great mashup.
And it's one of the best Killabh Mike verses you will ever hear.
All right, hold on. Don't start talking that shit now.
No, I got to, man.
Don't start talking that now.
I'm telling you, it's a very
I'm gonna DM
memorable Killabh Mike verse.
Yeah, I may have to DM you like, yo, this shit was
Shout out to
trash.
Killabh Mike, and it was one of the most quick story, amazing thing to witness him recording the verse. So we had came back from South by Southwest. He the dates had lined up where he was on tour. Run the Jewels was on tour with Lord.
Okay.
Whatever. So we were downstairs in the studio. He went upstairs to do an interview. Got done with the interview. Wrote the verse in his head on the spot. We have it on camera. Like, he wrote the verse in his head, and then as soon as he got done, he went and performed at American Airlines Center at an arena.
That's crazy.
I was just like, who is this guy? Like, yeah, it was an amazing thing. So shout out to Killabh Mike. He has a great guest feature on the project.
How does that work, though? And by work, I mean, like, I guess kind of collaborating with somebody like that. Like, you guys clearly are in unison and in sync with the way you think. What jewels did you pick up from him outside of knowing that he's a Martian? Because I didn't know that he was a Martian like that.
That was good. And that was good, too. What jewels did you pick up? It was an honor. Yeah. I mean, it's Killabh Mike. Like, it's like the OG of OGs. So when he was in the studio, after he cut his verse, he was talking, and I just shut the fuck up and was listening to everything that he had to say.
Yeah.
He was giving me different people that he wanted me to research, like James Baldwin, and was really just giving me some insight. We had showed him the Like Me video before it came out, and got his opinions on that, and I am honored to been in the same room with him.
That's pretty dope.
Wait, so what did he specifically say about the reason for reading James Baldwin?
He felt like my message was so blunt. He felt like it would be good for me to research that just to get a more educated reference for myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to go.
And I'm glad I did. I really like what I came across with James.
Yeah, now I'm going to go look up James Baldwin. I feel like I'm missing something.
Yeah.
Because
like I heard the name before, but I never like really dived in like that. And when Killabh Mike gives you a recommendation, you just do it.
Yeah, James Baldwin was, back then he was one of the black writers who really was outspoken when it came to the systematic oppression and things that were going on in the U.S. And he spoke heavily about it and openly about it, even overseas and stuff like that. So,
yeah, it was.
Yeah,
his courage was.
It was big. Like, for what he was doing, we would think that it's like just usual thing now, but think about like what some of the black athletes and black artists are saying now and back in like the 60s and even earlier. Yeah. That's wild.
Yeah.
All right, I gotta go do some research. I feel like I'm ignorant to this right now.
Oh,
that's
man.
horrible.
No, not at all. I mean, I found out in March. So, all good.
I guess the other question I did have, future-wise, who would you like to collaborate with outside of Killer Mike that, you really feel you would have a good vibe and connection with, that share the same like mind that you have? Joey
Badass, Kendrick, Cole.
I could definitely see that.
Jay. Pharrell. I always wanted to collaborate with Pharrell. I mean, I could do this really all day.
Yeah.
I'm just stop there.
We'll cut it there.
That'll be the whole episode of people I want to collaborate with. Yeah.
I guess in closing, outside of just holistically what you're looking to do long term, what are your goals? Like as far as surpassing music, because I get like a very artsy, more
philosophical kind of vibe.
Like I guess that's the vibe I'm getting from you. What else do you want to do?
I want to just want to bring positive change to the world. I feel like activism will be something I continue to do. I've been doing it now for some years now, but I'll do it past music, I'm sure. And just seeing more of the world, and I don't know. We'll see. Yeah.
I still like that answer. I'm not mad at that. I mean, this has been great. I know you guys have something to do. We want to thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
A very enlightening conversation, I will say. I really like this conversation.
Likewise, I appreciate y'all having me. For real.
We definitely wish you the best. You're now part of the Rooted community. You've been rooted, so we're gonna stalk you. Pretty much keep up with you, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
And just keep going.
Thank you.
You definitely have a bright future. And that's not me just saying that just because you're here. I do like your music, so I think it's dope. Also, check us out, ladies and gentlemen, on Grassroots Pod, and that's on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Also, in the video link for this, you will see the group me chat in the description. We'll be discussing this episode and getting your thoughts. Let us know what you think. What do you think about the music? What do you think about just the views and fighting a lot of the struggles that we go through every day? And then also, what's your handle? Let's let people know where we can find you.
On Twitter, @BobbySessions. On Instagram, @BobbySessionsTX.
Fire. All right. With that said, I'm Brandon Killabh.
I'm Erin Ashley Simon.
Bobby Sessions, and we out.
Hey.
Grassroots.